Welcome to TFN's Amberger Smackdown. I'm Christoph Amberger. The day my oldest son became big enough to sit in the passenger seat of my car, onboard musical entertainment began to decline rapidly. As soon as the door had shut, he'd play around with volume and balance buttons. My favorite CDs were unceremoniously silenced or ejected, replaced by mindless rock stations or his own idea of what constitutes quality music. What's interesting about Generation X, Y, and Z is the fact that, apart from a handful of recent, and from my geezer perspective, musical no-talent bands, the rock output of the 1970s and 80s still plays an important role in the pop cultural self-definition of young people. In my kids' schools, you see as many teenagers wearing identity-shaping Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, Ramones, and Jimi Hendrix t-shirts as you see on their paunchy, middle-aged suburbanite parents out mowing lawns on Saturdays. The reunion tours and perennial goodbye concert of geriatric rockers such as the Rolling Stones, the Police, or Led Zeppelin today are intergenerational events where you might find a young lady's thong underwear flung on stage right next to grandma's bloomers. Now, back in the 80s, Jimi Hendrix already was the dated relic of a ludicrous, bygone era to me, and he was only dead 10 years then. But seriously listening to music from the era of my father's youth, instead of Stiff Little Fingers, Madness, or Ian Dury and the Blockheads, would have been as inconceivable to my generation as the idea of my own father swing dancing to Benny Goodman and Tommy Dorsey instead of Bill Haley or the early Elvis. Or my grandfather singing Rule Britannia instead of Lily Marlene. Granted, the former never really caught on in Germany. So whatever happened to the young generation's idea of radical progress and innovation in popular music? Where does this generation leveling cultural conservatism in regard to things from the 70s come from? I observe a similar non-innovative spirit in current American politics. It would seem that no social concept or political platform can possibly be failed enough, banged up, battered, and plainly proven wrong by history not to be recycled and labeled progressive, the latest euphemism for retrovert liberal. Did the current crop of Democratic presidential contenders take Pink Floyd's "I Don't Need No Education" literally? Are they counting on the majority of Americans having ignored, slept through, or otherwise phased out the utter failures, flops, and fiscal debacles that government dirigism, socialized medicine, and high taxation have turned out to be not just in the United States, but in Europe, Latin America, Asia, over the past 4 decades? Even worse, could it be that they themselves are so ignorant of the changes that even the most backward European governments were forced to adopt in recent years to dig out from under the burden of these stagnant, fossilized ideas? Like introducing reduced taxes on business and private income, flat tax rates, or the privatization of healthcare and government services. Then again, nobody has ever gone broke underestimating the taste of the American public, and no political opportunist has ever lost an election overestimating the influence of envy, resentment, and the mercenary lust for unearned wealth among his constituents. There is some hope, though. My sons have discovered a band that actually sounds quite good. They're called Dropkick Murphys. They sound just like Stiff Little Fingers back in 1979, just with bagpipes. Maybe bagpipes are something Hillary should consider adding to her vintage Carter-era tax policy. It sure would beat the cackle. For today's financialnews.com, I'm Christoph Amberger.